1954. A kitchen in Indiana, Saturday morning, the formica still cool from the night air. A Folgers percolator rattles on the stove. The bride has been married 6 weeks. She is 20. Her mother-in-law walks in without knocking, sets down her handbag, and runs one finger across the top of the Frigidaire. She looks at her fingertip and says nothing. The bride's stomach drops. That silence was the inspection, and she understood she had failed. 15 expectations a 1950s mother-in-law placed on a new bride. Some spoken once, most never needed to be. Number 15. The white glove kitchen inspection. A mother-in-law expected to walk into her son's new home at any hour and find the kitchen spotless. Unannounced visits were not rude. They were a right. Spick and span on the floor, 25 cents a box. Bon Ami powder on the porcelain sink. Johnson's paste wax on the linoleum, 89 cents a can, buffed until it reflected the ceiling light. No water spots on the chrome faucet. No crumbs behind the toaster. No grease on the stove hood. The white cotton gloves she wore to church on Sunday doubled as inspection tools on Monday. One finger across the top of the refrigerator. One glance at the baseboards behind the trash can. The bride did not just clean her kitchen, she defended her character. A dirty stove was not a chore left undone. It was evidence. Number 14. Mastering his mother's recipes. Exactly. The bride was expected to learn her mother-in-law's recipes and reproduce them exactly. Not her own mother's. His mother's. The meatloaf, the pot roast, the pie crust. Crisco shortening for the crust, 89 cents for a 3-pound can. Lipton onion soup mix stirred into the pot roast, 15 cents a packet. The Betty Crocker picture. Cookbook arrived as a wedding gift in 1950 and sat open on the counter like scripture. But the real authority was the recipe card in his mother's handwriting. Her measurements, her method, the humiliation of hearing a husband say, "This is not how Mom makes it." The silence that followed while the bride cleared the plates and scraped his dinner into the trash. She did not marry a man. She inherited a menu. And deviation was disloyalty. Number 13. Laundry done right by her standards. Sheets, shirts, and tablecloths were washed, starched, and ironed to a standard the mother-in-law set. A wrinkled dress shirt was not an oversight. It was a character flaw. A Maytag wringer washer was still the standard machine in millions of homes through the mid-50s. Argo starch for the collars, faultless spray starch at 20 cents a can. The weight of a hot iron pressing across white cotton. Hanging the wash on the clothesline in the correct order. Sheets first, then shirts, then dish towels. Every woman on the street could see your line. Your mother-in-law could drive past on any Tuesday and read it like a report card. Whites not bright enough meant you skip the bluing. A crease in the wrong place meant careless. Careless meant unfit. The clothesline was not private. It was a public transcript of a woman's devotion. Number 12. A hot dinner on the table at 6 sharp. Dinner was expected to be hot, finished, and on the table when he walked through the door. Not 6:15, 6 o'clock. His mother called to confirm. A full dinner in 1954 meant meat, starch, vegetable, bread, and dessert. Chuck roast at 39 cents a pound. Ground beef at 35 cents. The entire meal timed backward from 6 o'clock. The roast in by 3. Potatoes peeled and boiling by 5:15. Rolls in the oven at 5:40. The table set with the good plates. A kitchen timer shaped like a red hen ticking on the counter. If dinner was not ready when the front door opened, the mother-in-law heard about it. The clock above the stove was not a convenience. It was a judge. Number 11. No spending without permission. A bride was expected to account for every dollar she spent. In many households, the mother-in-law reviewed the grocery receipts and the household budget, sometimes weekly. The median household income in 1955 was roughly $4,400 a year. A bride's allowance arrived in a white envelope, sometimes divided into smaller envelopes marked by category. Groceries, household, personal. The A and P receipt on thin paper, folded and saved. A 35-cent purchase questioned over Sunday dinner. S and H green stamps were often the only discretionary spending a wife controlled. She pasted them into booklets and redeemed them for things the budget did not include: a set of towels, a mixing bowl. Today, the average American household carries over $10,000 in credit card debt. She lived in a world where a nickel required an explanation. She managed the household down to the last penny. She did not own a dollar of it, but the kitchen was only one front. The real inspection happened when company walked through the door. Number 10. Entertaining his family without a flaw. When his family visited, and they visited often, the bride was expected to serve coffee, put out a spread, and make it look effortless. The mother-in-law was not a guest. She was an auditor, a Pyrex percolator on a TV tray, coffee cake on a good plate, or a homemade pound cake pulled from the oven an hour before they arrived. The china came out for his mother. Always. Never for her own friends. Napkins folded, coffee poured, ashtrays emptied between uses and wiped with a cloth. The carpet vacuumed in straight lines. She smiled and refilled cups and laughed at the right moments. She cleaned the kitchen alone afterward while the family watched Ed Sullivan. Hospitality was not a kindness she offered. It was an audition that never ended. 6 expectations in, and everyone pointed the same direction. These rules were not invented by one difficult woman. They were the architecture of a generation's understanding of marriage. The mother-in-law enforced them because she had survived them. Passing them forward was not spite. It was the only mentorship she knew, and the bride had no word yet for what this felt like. Number 9. Her appearance had to meet approval. A mother-in-law expected the bride to be presentable at all times. Hair set, lipstick on, no housecoat past 10 in the morning. Looking let go reflected on the family name. The housecoat was a shapeless cotton zip front, acceptable before 9 but shameful after. Revlon's Fire and Ice lipstick launched in 1952 and became the best-selling shade of the decade. Pin curls removed and brushed out before he came home. A girdle under her dress for a trip to the grocery store. Seamed stockings at $1.15 a pair, inspected for runs before stepping outside. The Maidenform bra advertisements told women they could dream of going anywhere. In reality, she dressed for one audience, her mother-in-law's eyes. If his mother dropped by at 11 and found the bride in curlers, it was mentioned. Not that day, but eventually. She did not get dressed in the morning. She reported for duty. Number 8. Never contradicting him in front of his mother. A bride was expected to defer to her husband in all conversations when his mother was present. A disagreement, even a gentle correction, was a betrayal of the family order. Ann Landers began her advice column in 1955. Dorothy Dix had been writing hers since the 20s. The message was the same. A wise wife makes her husband feel like a king in his own home. Ladies' Home Journal launched Can This Marriage Be Saved in 1953. The solutions almost always involved the wife adjusting. The silence of a young woman biting the inside of her cheek while her husband and his mother talked about her as if she were not in the room. She could feel the words she wanted to say pressing against her teeth. She swallowed them. Every time. She did not lose arguments. She was never allowed to enter one. Number 7. Sunday dinner at his mother's house. Every Sunday, the young couple was expected at his mother's table, not her family's, his. Missing it was an insult. Church at 10, his mother's house by noon. The good tablecloth spread across the dining table, a carved roast at the head where his father sat. The bride went straight to the kitchen to help with the sides and set the table. The men sat in the living room. She cleared every plate and washed every pot, while his mother told her the proper way to stack them. The drive home afterward, the silence thicker if his mother had made a comment about the rolls the bride brought. Sunday was not a day of rest for the new bride. It was a weekly performance review with pot roast. Number 6. Keeping the house exactly the way she had. The bride was expected to arrange her home, hang her curtains, and run her routines the way her mother-in-law had always done. Choosing a different brand of floor wax was a quiet act of rebellion. Curtain fabric selected to match the mother-in-law's taste. Throw pillows in her preferred pattern. A living room suite from the Sears Roebuck catalog at $189. The bride who wanted modern Danish furniture and was told it looked cheap. The thermostat kept at 68 degrees because that was how his mother kept hers. The dishes stored in the cabinet the way his mother stored hers. Cups on the left, saucers on the right. Today, Americans spend an average of $3,000 decorating a new home. In 1954, a bride decorated to match someone else's taste. It was her house on the deed. It was his mother's house in practice. Everything so far could be endured in daylight. Scrubbed floors and Sunday dinners and ironed shirts. The expectations that came next followed the bride behind a closed door. What made this system cruel was not any single rule. A clean kitchen is reasonable. A hot dinner is fair. But stacked together, they formed a wall with no door. The bride could meet every demand and still feel she had not done enough. Approval was always conditional, always temporary, always one visit away from being revoked. Number 5. Tolerating his habits without a word. A bride was expected to accept her husband's habits without complaint. His drinking, his nights out. His mother made it plain. He is a good man, and you are lucky to have him. A 6-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon at $1.09. Bowling league on Thursday nights that ran past midnight. The wife calling the bar at 11 and the bartender saying he left an hour ago. The mother-in-law's standard line, a man needs his space. The advice literature said the same thing in softer language. Do not be waiting at the door with questions. Be waiting with a warm plate. Today, 67% of divorces in America are initiated by women. In 1954, a woman did not initiate anything. She adjusted. Her silence was not peace. It was the price of the marriage continuing. Number 4. Giving up her own family. The bride was expected to shift her loyalty entirely to her husband's family. Visiting her own mother too often raised suspicion. A long-distance phone call cost $1.75 for 3 minutes in 1954. A letter home required a 3-cent stamp and the time to write it after the children were in bed. Christmas was spent at his parents' house, Thanksgiving at his parents' house, Easter at his parents' house. The bride's mother learned not to call on weeknights. She learned to hear her daughter say, "Everything is fine," and to understand what that meant. The slow, quiet shrinking of a young woman's world from the family who raised her to the family she was assigned to. She did not leave home to start her own family. She left home to join someone else's. Number 3. The duty behind the closed door. The mother-in-law made clear, sometimes directly and sometimes without a single word, that the bride's obligation included keeping her husband satisfied. The phrase was the same in every kitchen where it was spoken. A happy husband does not stray. Books published in the late 50s told women that fulfillment came from yielding completely. It told women that fulfillment came from yielding completely. The pamphlet a bride received before the wedding explained what was expected, but not how to feel about it. Twin beds appeared in the Sears catalog, not because couples wanted distance, but because propriety demanded the appearance of it when guests visited. The unspoken understanding passed from one woman to another across kitchen tables was that refusal was not a right a wife possessed. The phrase wifely duty was spoken without irony. Today we have a vocabulary for consent. In 1954, a bride had no such word. She did what was expected and called it love. Number 2, never airing the family's business. Whatever happened inside the marriage stayed inside the marriage. Arguments, debts, drinking, cruelty. The mother-in-law's first and final rule was absolute. You do not talk about this family to outsiders. Ever. There were no therapists in most small towns in 1954. Psychiatry was shameful to mention. The only confidant a bride might have was her sister or a neighbor, and even that was dangerous. The wife who told her own mother about a fight discovered the mother-in-law found out and made the telling itself a larger crisis. No hotline to call, no shelter to visit, no name for emotional abuse, just endurance. Just getting through the week and smiling at church on Sunday and telling anyone who asked that everything was fine. Silence was not loyalty. It was a locked door. And the key was always on the outside. Every expectation on this list pointed toward a single one, the one a bride could not outwork or outcook or outclean her way around. Number 1, producing a son. Above everything, above the spotless kitchen and the silent obedience and the Sunday pot roast, one expectation towered over the rest. The bride was expected to produce a grandchild, not just any grandchild, a boy, a son to carry the name. The pressure began within months of the wedding. Any news yet asked at every holiday table. The average American family in 1955 had 3.5 children. If the first baby was a girl, the expectations simply reset. Let us hope for a boy next time. The second girl arrived to a quieter room. By the third, the silence said everything. There was no fertility science, no acknowledgement that the outcome was not hers to control, just blame. And all of it landed on the wife. A pink receiving blanket handed over in silence at the hospital. She had met every standard, cooked his meals, pressed his shirts, polished his mother's silver, smiled through every unannounced visit for years. And none of it mattered if the name ended with her. That was the cruelest expectation on this list, not because of what it demanded, but because it was the one thing effort could not guarantee. And she was the only one held responsible. The mother-in-law is easy to cast as the villain. But she had walked the same road 25 years earlier. She had survived the same inspections and swallowed the same silence and waited for the same son. She enforced the rules because the rules were all she had ever been given. And the young bride who stood in that Indiana kitchen in 1954 with a smudge of dust on the refrigerator and a knot in her stomach would one day stand in her own son's kitchen. The question was never whether she remembered. The question was whether she could stop.